Welcome back, everyone. Today we're wrapping up the 4 week bulk. Primary reason I did this was to give my body a break from the long cutting period that I went through. Towards the end, I began feeling cold most of the time. Strength and work capacity were greatly diminished, and I could not get a full night's sleep due to the consistently elevated cortisol. From a mental standpoint, it was also very draining because week in to week out, I was either plateauing or regressing in both strength and size. So this 4 week bulk was much needed, and even if it's not for a metabolic break, it's also pretty useful because sometimes when you go on a long bulk, something like 16 or 20 weeks of something like a lean bulk, you begin to half-ass things because you have so much time to meet your goal that each workout percentage wise really isn't that important. And sometimes you can miss sleep, and sometimes your diet can be a little trash because you got plenty of time to end up reaching your goal. For this, you only have 4 weeks. When you only have 4 weeks, that means every workout percentage wise is enormous. They really matter if you do it correctly or not. Same goes for diet. You really can't afford to eat like shit. Everything has to be very nutritious. You have to make sure all your macros and calories are all met. And then from a sleep perspective, you have to maximize sleep. You can't end up getting 4 hours of sleep every night and staying up playing on your phone. Everything has to be quality. Everything has to be maximized. Your focus has to be 100%. And so I mapped out everything. I had my entire program laid out in front of me. I knew what I wanted every single workout, what kind of weights I wanted to hit, and I would sit down, visualize exactly what I wanted, and then I would do my best to execute that. They were extremely demanding workouts, and as soon as I was done with them, my immediate focus was on recovery. I was eating the best quality food I possibly could get in my body, and I tried to keep my body fueled up. And when it came time for sleep, cut out all the lights, didn't fuck around on my phone, and really focused on sleeping hard. So all these things piled together, I focused extremely hard on making it as optimized as humanly possible. My focus could not have been any more intense, and I think the results really speak for themselves. So let's get into it. Shown here is my actual workout. I hope you guys can see it clearly enough. I have two workouts that I alternated back and forth 3 times per week. And in those workouts, I chose a few lifts that I wanted to get really strong at. Those included the seated dumbbell press, guillotine press, sternum pull up, later on the dumbbell reverse lunge, and the incline curl. When I started this program, I wanted to make very clear, concise goals that I could reasonably attain. So when I started, I was able to do 80 for 6, 70 for 8, and 60 for 10 on the seated dumbbell press. The goal was to do 100 for 6, 90 for 8, and 80 for 10. When I finished, I was able to do 105 for 4, 92.5 for 8, and 85 for 8. So definitely some major increases there. Moving on to the guillotine press, I started off with 165 for 8, 135 for 10, and 115 for 12. The goal was to do 205 for 8, 185 for 10, and 165 for 12. I finished by doing 245 for 6, 230 for 10, and 215 for 11. Now, this is not to say that I couldn't have done heavier weight to start off with, but if you've ever seen how a guillotine press is performed, it's towards the base of the neck, and so it puts a lot of strain on the anterior delt and rotator cuff. So it just took me a few sessions to get used to it. So some of it is obviously strength increases, but others is just getting more comfortable with the movement. The third exercise I focused on was the Gironda pull-up. I started off by doing body weight for a set of 8, 6, and 4. The goal was to do 3 sets of 10. I fell short. I ended up doing 9, 10, and 6. Now, I'm not going to complain too much because my lats did grow, but I did fall short. So, dumbbell reverse lunge, this was literally entered into the program the very last week of the 4 week bulk. These are inspired by Ever Ascending Syndrome. I highly recommend you check out his channel. But if it's worth anything, I started off, I think it was like Monday. I did 205 each leg for a set of 17. And then on that Friday or Wednesday, whatever the day was, I did 225 for a set of 16 on each leg. So that one absolutely crushed me, but I'm very proud of it. And finally, the incline dumbbell curl. I started off with 40 for 3 sets of 8. The goal is to do 60 for 3 sets of 8. And when I finished, I did 60 for a set of 8, 7, and 6. All that being said, I definitely gained a lot of strength, but the real question is, how did that carry over to size? So here's a collage of different poses I put together so you get an idea of how the physique looks overall. When I started the bulk, I weighed in at 218.1 and at the end 231, so a 12.9 pound increase. This is obviously not all muscle. I do have to say I began taking creatine the first week. I loaded at 30 grams per day and then maintained at 10 grams the rest of the bulk. And this allowed me to gain about 7 to 8 pounds. I don't consume a lot of meat to begin with, and I'm pretty sure I have a large proportion of fast twitch muscle fibers. So I would be considered, I guess, like a super responder in terms of if I was in a study. So creatine has a very profound effect on me weight wise and also strength wise. The other aspect would also be that my glycogen stores were depleted during the long cut, so those were filled back up. So muscles obviously got filled up and weight increased. So whatever's left over is some combination of fat and muscle. Obviously, I'm hoping most of it was muscle, but you'll never know. So let's get into measurements. My neck increased from 17.5 to 18 inches, so a 0.5 inch increase. Chest, which increased the most, or second highest in the entire bulk, went from 48.5 to 49 and a quarter, so a 0.75 inch increase. Shoulders, 56 inches to 56.5, 0.5 inch increase. Arms unflexed, 15 to 15 and a quarter. Arms flexed, 17 to 17 and a half. Now, this is an important measurement. I've talked about it in the past that the unflexed to flex measurement can actually tell you a lot about your body composition. You cannot flex fat, okay? That is not something you can flex. So the disparity between unflexed and flex tells you how much is muscle and how much is fat. So in the first part, it's 15 to 17, so a 2 inch difference. In the second part, it's 15.25 to 17.5. So there's a larger disparity between the two. So that means more of it was muscle and not a lot of it was fat. If you have a very low ratio, it usually means you do have a lot of fat sitting in your arms and it's not mostly muscle. I also want to clarify, this is not pumped. This is all taken cold, like when I first woke up in the morning. The reason I don't take a pumped measurement is because there's a lot of factors that could affect it. Maybe I had more glycogen or more carbs one day. Maybe, there were occlusion bands, who knows? There's a lot of things that can affect the pump. So I take everything cold and when I first wake up in the morning. Forearms, for some reason, they increased by 0.5 inches. They were 13.5, now they're 14. Not really sure why that happened. I didn't really train my forearms much at all, really. My waist increased from 33 to 34. So it's a 1 inch increase. Now, this is another really good indicator for how much was fat and how much was muscle. So a 1 inch increase, I'm going to write that one off as I trained my obliques and my entire core really every single day for the entire 4 weeks. So I got a lot of hypertrophy in the obliques and abdominals. And then I'm going to also say that some of it was fat. So I'm not going to just totally write it off as nothing. But the 1 inch increase, hopefully a lot of that was muscle. I actually want a bigger, thicker waist. As for my upper legs, they went from 26.5 to 27.5. So a 1 inch increase. And I almost attribute that entirely to the lunges. I really didn't train my legs that much during this. So that 1 inch gain, believe it or not, could actually be from those lunges. Calves, they remained the exact same. Kind of sad, I didn't really train my calves as hard as I should have. They're definitely not where they should be. Ideally, calves, upper arms, and neck would all be around the same measurement, but I'll work on that the next bulking cycle. So in summation, very pleased with how this very short bulk went. I feel like I learned a lot, gained a lot of strength. Feel like I also gained a lot of quality size. After this, I'm going to do a 4-week cut blitz, and I'm going to try and get down to 9% body fat, the leanest I've been since high school. I will do a video outlining the details of that soon. And if you guys have stuck around this long, I really appreciate all the love and support. Be sure to like the video if you did like the video. And I'll see you guys next time. Much love.